When I first played Freedom Planet back in 2014, I was expecting a Sonic fan game. I mean, the project started out as a fan game with the protagonist Lilac being a hedgehog at first. But then the developers turned Lilac into a dragon, and turned the project into an original IP. And I'll admit it, I didn't like Freedom Planet at first. I was really stubborn and wanted to play the game exactly like classic Sonic. Then, a few years later, it came out on the Switch. So I tried again. That's when it all clicked. I get it now. It wasn't just Sonic. It had mechanics from Mega Man, Gunstar Heroes, Ristar, Castlevania. Basically, it was a compost heap of all the amazing 2D platformers blended together and created its own unique identity at the same time. And good God, these stages were fun. Once I understood and stopped basing it off the Genesis titles of Sonic, that's when my enthusiasm for the game grew. I loved it, and the amazing boss fights. It had so much energy, and there was so much high-paced excitement in certain stages that I literally hopped in my seat. So now, I eagerly await the sequel. There were huge delays and massive doubts, especially since there was a big hiatus in between. But in 2022, after 7 years of wait, Freedom Planet 2 was released on PC, and has been gradually updating until the console ports finally coming out a year and a half later. So, was it worth the wait? A lot of cool additions were made to the game. Carol and Milla were revamped to be much more enjoyable, and now a new playable character has joined the crew. You can also parry attacks and dodge right through them. There's even unique equipment options that you can set before every stage. They can power up your attacks, increase your max HP, or create a freaking shadow clone like Zero's twin dream move in X4. And I love the fact that this game is challenging, but fair. Mostly. You get rewarded with extra in-game currency through stage ranks. Power-ups decrease the multiplier towards the rank, but you can also add difficulty modifiers for an extra challenge. And the game also offers fun beginner options like auto-dodging through attacks, or even just letting you resume where you died and revive on the spot with just a sliver of HP left, if you have the lives available. And thankfully, these conveniences don't punish your rank, in case you're going for achievements. So, with 4 playable characters with their own unique playstyle and different movement methods, and the fact that the game continued to get several updates, fixing bugs, balancing characters to make them better, and adding a few more quality of life changes, trust me, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck for this game. But if for some reason you're still on the fence, then let's go through it. I'll summarize the different playstyles and highlight the positives while also acknowledging the negatives. Let's go. First, we have Lilac the Dragon. She knows Kung Fu and uses her hair as deadly lashes. She's the speed girl of the bunch and can use her dragon boost to literally break through enemy defenses. One attack that helps with platforming is Lilac's Cyclone, which can be seen as a double jump and a means to hover above those harder to reach platforms. The attack is so iconic that Hat Kid herself shouts it when she's wearing a headpiece based off Lilac. She's got great directional attacks too, with her up command being reminiscent of a Shoryuken and can also be used after a jump for extra verticality. Next, Carol the Wildcat. She's arguably the best pick of the group for various reasons. Her claws can chew away at enemies' health at a rapid pace. But not just that, her special attack tosses a boomerang from a safe distance and creates lingering damage. But she can also dash towards it for even more hurt. She's also the only one that can roll up into a ball, Sonic style, whenever you tap down while moving. And also, she's the only one who can wall climb like Mega Man X. And because she's so versatile, in my opinion she comes off as the Dante from Devil May Cry of the group. Oh, and just like Dante, she can use a motherfucking motorcycle too. Gotta find the gas can on the stage, but still. Look at her calves, man, they gotta be made of steel. Next, Milla the Hound. She also knows Kung Fu and has a reflective shield. She can also shoot projectiles if you tap the shield button too. Milla flutters in the air like Yoshi, and gains quick altitude this way. She doesn't have a special per se, but Milla's unique mechanic, when she dodges, she creates a green cube to power up her attacks. It boosts the projectiles or shoots a powerful laser that can make quick work of enemies. Milla's movement options took me the most to getting used to. You use the laser's knockback to shoot behind you and you use it to move at a speedrunning pace. But I always mess it up because I'm kinda bad with her, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, and she can also dig. She's a good girl. And then we have Neera, the scary panda police girl. She's the ice-using magic caster who's spec'd into physical strength. She was honestly my favorite on launch, but a lot of people didn't like her playstyle and claimed she was too slow. Maybe that's just me being bad at the game, I don't know, I was thinking she was actually really quick. I love how she freezes the ground and moves faster when she gets faster momentum too. She uses a spear for pinpoint melee attacks and can use various ice magic moves for her specials. She fires an icy boomerang that ricochets across surfaces and freezes enemies. Or use her ice magic upwards to create a cyclone of ice that chews through enemies' health while also elevating her in place. And her ground special creates icy pillars that jut upwards and damages any enemy or boss that runs through them. She can build up speed by jabbing in the air and is one of the coolest characters to play in this game. And yeah, that's an ice pun. Deal with it. And with all that being said, what about the stages? Well, there's a ton of them actually. Over 20 stages to try and test out each character's kit. They're packed with nods to old Sonic games, while adding in a blend of originality as well. We got our casino night with baseball added into the mix. Fiery hot volcanic levels where you're speeding through trying to find a cool spot behind the walls. An ancient underwater temple with key collecting and gravity inverting puzzles. We got sky high stages where we launch ourselves into battle on top of a freaking missile. Scrapyards in the Arctic where the ruins of a fallen army are slowly rising. Mecha fights taking place in the background of a lush jungle. And we've got high-stake pursuits while grinding sweet rails in space. And if it feels like I'm spoiling a lot, well, there's a lot more that I'm holding back on, trust me. Almost all these levels are pretty big in every sense of the word. So replaying with a different character can feel fresh with their different movement options, especially since it can lead you to different paths you haven't taken before, or maybe even have a means to sequence break the stage. But it can also be very easy to get lost sometimes. Some levels can use a bit more clarity, since some of them are open-ended and require a good memory to know when to backtrack, or have the path forward just tucked a little outside of the player's view. But the game still does a good job conveying the path forward with visual cues, so the instances where I got lost were really far and few in between. And even though I did get lost sometimes, I still managed to beat these stages at a respectable time. But there's also a couple that did feel like they wore out their welcome. We have not one, not two, but 3 stages that require the player to complete several mini stage segments in between. Segment me once and I'm twice, but 3? My biggest gripe, which most savvy players already know, is Ancestral Forge. It's a slower and more puzzle focused level, which isn't bad for that reason. It just dragged on way too long. It could have just cut at least one section because it was just recycling the same key activating gimmick too much. And just when you think you've finished by opening up all the doors and taking the big main door, surprise, one more puzzle room. And after that, another puzzle room. Like seriously, calm down. Even then, the length of these stages didn't really sour my experience of the game overall. It's just so meaty, and for this video, I've beaten it with every character. So another honest critique I have to mention, while there's a lot of cool enemy variation, they can really overwhelm a stage at times. Some enemies have too much HP and are placed too liberally. I get that some are placed during high speed segments to add to the coolness factor, so that's not bad by itself, but then you have the occasional odd instance where a lot suddenly jump your ass. And it's at these times where it made me feel that they were just spammed rather than, having their placement thought out. And off-screen attacks are common. There are warnings that are placed off-screen, but the warnings are still pretty vague. So just do yourself a favor, press pause, and turn on the auto dodge. There is no penalty of any kind for this, and the stage and enemy layout feels like it's designed with the new auto dodge in mind. Don't try hard in this game till you're familiar with the level layouts and the enemy types. And auto dodge really isn't that broken since you can't dodge and attack at the same time. So if you're just blindly attacking, then you can find that your HP is getting whittled down to nothing in a snap. Especially when you're going up against the bosses because there's so many of them. They're a fun challenge and there's a unique boss at the end of each stage. Their attack patterns are varied but predictable, so they put up a fair challenge when you first take them on and try to figure out when to strike. But again, the stage map can be a bit too big, so some bosses end up being off-screen more often than they should. Moving on, a nice touch for the sequel is that all these stages are spaced out across a world map. In between you can go into towns and shops to buy items. The NPCs themselves serve to build up the world as well, from oriental towns where people respect nature, to a shopping mall with advertisements of idols and video games. There's a lot of cute characters to talk to as well.
Look, they want to be a worm.
And all these NPCs have such lively animations too. I love the way they move when expressing themselves. Even something as small as a hand wave has so much character in it. But this in itself created a couple new issues. In one specific instance, I remember loading up my old story mode file not knowing where to go anymore. I was really confused and was about to start a new game until I finally realized that I had to enter a specific establishment in this title town, just so I could speak to a specific character in the basement to proceed. I mean, you do this in story mode where you visit a town and speak to someone to progress the plot along. So this created a one-time headache where a town came up on the world map with no way to progress. So naturally I went inside looking for someone relevant to move the game along. And I kept looking and looking and looking until finally I gave up and left. That's when I discovered there was no one to speak to. I just needed to come in and out. Again, minor nitpick, but it did create an odd inconsistency. These town hubs clearly had a lot of work put in, so it just makes me sad to say that I didn't really have a reason to come back to them. I went back checking to see if there were quests or additional content after the story, but no, not really. And there's no real reason to go through the towns again with the other heroines once you beat the game, since everyone generally says the same thing. Outside of a couple specific Easter eggs for Galaxy Trail fans.
But what is the story, I hear you not asking? Do you need to play the first Freedom Planet? Well, no, but you should still because it's pretty fun. But anyways, the cutscenes of the first game is what drew most criticism. Also, it got oddly dark when you're playing and suddenly have an interrogation scene involving actual torture. Is that Lilac's torn pigtails on the table?
But thankfully there wasn't a tonal whiplash in this second game. Shattering the Kingdom Stone freed an entity that was sealed deep underwater.
Her name? Murga. She's a water dragon like Lilac, and both are potentially the last of their kind. And Murga is trying to overthrow the Magister to get revenge for the water dragons.
So overall, the story is about exposing a nation's dark history and what happened to the water dragons. All while other characters explore their origins as well, such as Milla the Hound discovering where her parents came from, Carol the Wildcat coming into contact with her crime-savvy sister again, and Neera, the overprotective knight who has to come to terms with her friend's betrayal against the nation she swore to protect. This all sounds great. There's some fun cutscenes in between and a curveball or two, but I have to point out that these characters bicker a little too much, and it can be a little annoying when you're playing the stage and all they do is just argue with each other.
Are you expecting me to sympathize with trees when the freedom of Shang 2 is at stake? Ladies!
The game does have great side characters. My favorite was Captain Kalaw. He just had so much energy and his deliveries were as perfect as his biceps.
Very well. I will make time to listen to your intriguing offer. Punch first!
Corazon is also a pretty cool character on her own. She's Carol's sister and she just oozes awesomeness, look at her. Then we have who I really didn't like. He's a monkey boy who's supposed to be like Invader Zim or Peridot from Steven Universe, but his voice was a few octaves too high with all the shrieking he was doing. I know people love him though, they love that gremlin energy, so good for them. And Spade, the cool panda thief from the earlier game, which, I'll be honest, I was really hoping he'd come back as a playable character or have a bigger impact. But sadly, he's just a douche in this game for spoiler reasons. Also, fun fact, Sean Chiplock voices Spade. I was a small gaming acquaintance of his back then on Steam. We played Dragon Nest and Spiral Knights a few times with others over Skype. He mentioned Freedom Planet in his voice gig in one of his calls, which is why I bought the first game in the first place. You know, to show support. Imagine my surprise years later when I saw his Twitter handle again, and realizing how far he made it in the voice acting biz. Congrats man, I didn't know you played Hummel, he's my favorite character in Wise. Alright, I just wanted to gush about that real quick. Moving on, and speaking of big name voice actors, Chris Sabat of Vegeta and All Might fame voices one of the characters.
Thanks, Ascal! I was almost a Milla sandwich!
Whatever. I'm here to help you search the place. Or punch things, probably.
He plays Ascal, a big tough brawling earth dragon who acts as one of the many catalysts for the story, who I also adored.
I hate when children beat me.
Oh, and the music. Oof, it's so good. And I just love listening to the airy instrumentals and the soothing chimes that play out during my romps through the game. Shade Armory's track stuck out to me because, man, I love that xylophone solo thrown in. And Lightning Tower's track stuck out as my favorite. That emotional sax or something, I don't know, I'm not good at distinguishing instruments. I'm sure anybody can find one or two tracks that resonate with them for one reason or another. Alright, so overall, great character gameplay, mostly good level design, with a couple of slow-paced stages, great bosses, and an alright story. The game does seem to be leading up to another sequel, so I'm really hoping Galaxy Trail can address certain flaws that held this game back. I also hope this video was informative for you all as well. I'd largely recommend this game at full price, just to support the devs. And if you're still on the fence for some reason, I guess just wait for a sale, but trust me, it'll be worth it. I'm hoping Galaxy Trail takes a bunch of criticism to heart and makes a better Freedom Planet 3. It doesn't have to be bigger. Freedom Planet 2's level count with 4 playable characters gave us more than what most people will realistically eat. But a more focused third entry can really make this franchise smack it out of the park. But anyways, thank you for watching.